There are some promises that never die. They live in the silence between words. They breathe in the spaces we refuse to look at. They wait. My mother made me a promise 23 years ago, on a hospital bed that smelled like disinfectant and dying hope. She held my hand with fingers that had forgotten their strength, and she whispered, "One day, you'll understand why I had to leave you." I was 7 years old. I didn't understand. I spent the next 2 decades trying not to remember. But yesterday, a stranger knocked on my door, holding a wooden box with my mother's name carved into the lid. And when I opened it, the promise she left behind didn't just return. It shattered everything I thought I knew about love, sacrifice, and the woman who gave me life. This is not a story about forgiveness. This is a story about the truth we bury because we're too afraid to hold it in the light. And sometimes the truth doesn't set you free. Sometimes it just shows you that freedom was never the point. My name is Rare. I'm 30 years old now, but there's a part of me that never grew past 7. That's the age I was when my mother died, or at least that's what I was told. My father never spoke about her, not once, not even on the nights when I cried myself to sleep asking why she left. He would just sit at the edge of my bed, staring at the wall, his jaw tight, his eyes somewhere far away. "She's gone," he would say. "That's all you need to know." But children don't accept gone as an answer. We fill the silence with stories. We create mothers out of shadows and whispers. We imagine reasons that make the pain easier to carry. I told myself she was sick. I told myself she loved me but couldn't stay. I told myself that somewhere, in some version of the world, she thought about me too. But as I grew older, the stories stopped comforting me. They just became lies I told myself to survive. My father remarried when I was 12, a quiet woman named Kavita, who tried her best to be kind, but never tried to be my mother. I respected her for that. She knew her place. She knew I had already assigned that role to a ghost. I left home at 18, went to college, built a life, got a job in marketing, found a girlfriend named Priya who didn't ask too many questions about my past. I learned to smile without meaning it. I learned to function without feeling. And I learned that the best way to deal with grief is to pretend it never existed. But grief is patient. It waits in the corners of your life, quiet and still. And then one day it knocks on your door, holding a wooden box. The man who came to my apartment was old, maybe 70, maybe older. His hands shook as he held the box out to me, and his eyes carried the kind of sadness that doesn't fade with time. "Are you Aryan?" he asked. I nodded, confused, suspicious. "I'm sorry to come unannounced," he said, "but your mother asked me to give this to you. She made me promise." The words hit me like cold water. "My mother?" I repeated. He nodded. "She passed away 3 weeks ago." I stared at him. "My mother died 23 years ago." He shook his head slowly. "No," he said, "she didn't." I should have slammed the door. I should have told him he had the wrong person, the wrong address, the wrong life. But I didn't, because somewhere deep inside, in that 7-year-old corner of my heart, a small voice whispered, "What if?" I let him in. He sat on my couch, the box resting on his knees, and he told me a story I wasn't ready to hear. "My name is Ramesh," he said. "I was your mother's neighbor. For the last 23 years, I watched her live in a small room in Pune, alone, waiting." "Waiting for what?" I asked, my voice tight. "For you to be ready," he said. "For the right time. For the truth to not destroy you." "What truth?" He looked at the box. "She wanted you to hear it from her, not from me." He placed the box on the table between us and stood up. "I've kept my promise," he said quietly. "Now it's your choice whether to keep hers." And then he left. I sat there for an hour, staring at the box. It was simple, wooden, old, the kind of thing you'd find in a grandmother's attic. My mother's name was carved into the lid in faint, uneven letters. Mira.
I hadn't said that name out loud in years. My hands were shaking as I lifted the lid. Inside, there were 3 things: a stack of letters tied with a red ribbon, a small cassette tape, and a photograph. The photograph was of my mother holding me as a baby. She looked young, happy. Her smile was the kind that reaches the eyes. I didn't remember her looking like that. I only remembered her pale face on that hospital bed. I picked up the cassette tape. There was a label on it written in her handwriting: "For Arian, when you're ready to understand." I hadn't seen a cassette player in years, but I knew someone who still had one. Priya didn't ask questions when I showed up at her place at 10 p.m. holding a cassette tape and a box. She just made tea, pulled out her father's old tape player from the storage closet, and sat beside me. "Do you want me to stay?" she asked. I nodded. I pressed play. For a moment, there was only static. And then I heard her voice. My mother's voice. "Arian," she said, and my chest tightened. "If you're listening to this, it means I'm gone, and it means you're finally old enough to hear the truth." There was a pause, a breath. "I need you to know that I never wanted to leave you. I need you to know that every single day I was apart from you felt like dying. But I also need you to know that I had no choice." Another pause, longer this time. "Your father didn't tell you this. He couldn't. He was trying to protect you. But you deserve to know." I could hear her crying now, soft and broken. "Arian, I didn't leave because I was sick. I left because I was forced to." My heart stopped. "Your father's family never accepted me. I was from a different caste, a different world. They tolerated me while I was pregnant, but after you were born, they wanted me gone. They told your father to choose, them or me." I felt Priya's hand on my arm, but I couldn't move. "He chose them." The words were quiet, but they shattered everything. "Arian, they gave me 2 options. Leave quietly and let you grow up with a family, a future, stability, or stay and watch them destroy your father's career, his reputation, his life. They said they'd make sure you suffered too, that you'd grow up knowing you were the reason your father lost everything." She took a shaky breath. "So I left. I went to Pune. I found a small room. I worked in a school as a cleaner. I saved every rupee I could, and I wrote you letters every week, every month, for 23 years. I looked down at the stack of letters in the box, dozens of them, unopened, unsent. I never sent them," she continued, as if she could hear my question. "Because your father asked me not to. He said it would confuse you. He said it would hurt you more. And maybe he was right. I don't know. I'll never know." Her voice cracked. "But I need you to know I never stopped being your mother. I never stopped loving you, and I never stopped hoping that one day you'd understand." The tape clicked, and then it ended. I sat there in silence, staring at the letters. Priya didn't say anything. She just held my hand. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my bedroom floor and read every single letter. 23 years of love, written in ink that had faded with time. She wrote about her days, her struggles, her hope. She wrote about me. She wrote about the son she imagined I'd become. "I wonder if you're tall now. I wonder if you laugh like your father. I wonder if you think of me at all." Today I saw a boy who looked like you might look. He was playing cricket in the street. I stood there and watched him until his mother called him home, and I cried the whole way back. "I'm proud of you, Arian. Even though I don't know you, I'm proud, because you're alive, and that's enough." I read until my eyes burned. I read until my hands shook. I read until the anger came. And when it came like fire. How dare she? How dare she leave? How dare she make me believe she didn't love me? How dare she let me grow up thinking I wasn't enough to make her stay? I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw the letters across the room, but I didn't. because underneath the anger was something worse. Guilt. She had lived 23 years alone, waiting for me to understand, and I had lived 23 years hating her for something she didn't do. I called my father the next morning. He answered on the third ring. "Aryan?" His voice was cautious. "Did you know she was alive?" I asked. Silence. "Did you know?" I repeated, louder this time. "Yes." One word, but it was enough. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you were happy," he said quietly. "You had moved on. You had a life. I didn't want to bring the past back." "You didn't want to bring the past back?" I laughed, bitter and cold. "You let me believe she abandoned me. You let me grow up thinking I wasn't worth staying for." "That's not—" "She wrote me letters, Dad, every week for 23 years, and you knew. You knew and you said nothing." "I was trying to protect you." "From what?" I shouted. "From the truth? From knowing that my mother loved me?" He was quiet for a long time. "From knowing that I was the reason she left." And just like that, the anger shifted. "What do you mean?" I asked. "I chose my family over her," he said, his voice breaking. "I let them bully her. I let them push her out. I told myself it was for you, but it wasn't. It was because I was weak, and I've lived with that guilt every single day since." I closed my eyes. "She loved you so much, Aryan," he whispered, "and I took that away from both of you." I went to Pune. I needed to see where she lived. The address was in one of the letters. It was a small room on the third floor of an old building. The paint was peeling, the walls were thin. The landlord let me in. It was almost empty. A bed, a table, a chair, and on the wall, dozens of photographs. Of me. School photos, college photos, photos I didn't even know existed. She had been watching me all these years, from a distance, in silence. I sat on her bed and I cried. I cried for the mother I never knew. I cried for the years we lost. I cried for the love that was always there, but never close enough to touch. I buried her properly. I held a small ceremony in Pune with Ramesh and a few neighbors who knew her. They told me stories, how she smiled when she talked about me, how she saved every newspaper clipping with my name, how she used to say, "One day he'll come, one day he'll understand." And now I did. I understood that love doesn't always look the way we expect. Sometimes it's loud, sometimes it's silent, sometimes it's staying, sometimes it's leaving, but it's always there, even when we can't see it. I keep her letters in a box beside my bed now. I read one every night before I sleep, and I talk to her. I tell her about my day, my fears, my dreams. I tell her I understand. I tell her I'm sorry it took so long. People say closure brings peace, but sometimes closure just brings a different kind of pain. The pain of knowing what you lost and knowing you can never get it back. But I've learned something. Love doesn't need presence to exist. It doesn't need words to be real. My mother loved me from a distance for 23 years, and now I'll love her from a distance for the rest of my life. Because some promises don't end when someone dies. They just become the ones we keep in their memory. And maybe that's enough. Maybe that has to be enough.